Hi, I'm Cormac. You're listening to Queerly Beloved, supported by Amazon Music. In this series, I invite DJs and musicians, friends, and allies from the LGBTQ community to talk about music, queerness, and anything else that shaped their unique story. My guest today is Kiddy Smile. Kiddy is a DJ, producer, dancer, and although incredibly humble about it, he's an activist with an incredible story. Kiddy began his career as a dancer, getting his first big break in a George Michael video, no less, and since then, the man has been busy. Aside from touring as a DJ, he's been producing excellent house music and working hard to help bring the ballroom scene to Europe, collaborating with Madonna and appearing in movies for directors like Gaspar Noé. If you haven't already seen Climax, please do go watch it. It's beautiful. Oh, and aside from all of this, he was a host on Drag Race France for 3 seasons. You can find a playlist for all the music mentioned in today's episode and every episode of Season 2 at the link in the episode description. And please, if you're enjoying the series, I'd love it if you could please give us a rating, subscribe to the podcast, and share it with a friend. Kiddy has so many incredible stories that actually we didn't get to cover everything. We'll probably have to get him back on another series. So much insight, so much wisdom. It was really a pleasure and a privilege to speak with him. Hi, Kiddy.
Hi.
Where have you been? You said you've been traveling.
I was in South Korea in Seoul, and then Sydney, and then Bangkok and Phuket, and back to Paris, a little bit in Berlin, and then New York, and back in Paris.
That's insane.
Yeah. But it's the life we choose.
How was Australia? Were you there for the Mardi Gras?
I was actually there for something that is not related to music. It's just like I mentor a bunch of people, queer youth, through the ballroom scene, which is an artistic movement for queer people, queer youth, created by Black trans women, and we kind of come together and compete at balls, which are the event where we gather, and the groups that we form, they're kind of like chosen family. We are called houses. And then, as I am what they call a parent in my house, I get to go in different countries and open new departments of my houses. So that's what I've done in Seoul, and that's what I've done in Sydney.
That's incredible. Often when we talk about the ballroom scene, we think about New York, but I'm also aware of how much you've perpetuated that and kept that alive within Europe as well, you know, from your music videos to your film roles to your choreography. I mean, there's so much to be said there about your role of keeping that alive within Europe.
Well, I think at the beginning I was doing it for myself because I really wanted to have people to see myself and to see people that look like me in music videos. And I've been part of different communities growing up. I was lucky enough to be in a very I don't know how to explain that, but I've always been around culture, whether it was like music or dancing, but the way I approach the first time culture as a person who is a part of it was through dancing, and I was part of the hip hop community. And in this community, I felt like it was okay for me to be a Black person, but I didn't feel very comfortable exploring my queerness in this space. So eventually I left, and I was introduced to ballroom through a French person who is the pioneer in Europe, and her name is Nikki. And she talked to me about this space. And at the time, I was already a DJ, and I had a residency in a club that was called Social Club in Paris. And they were asking me if I would mind hosting a mini ball, a mini event, for them to be able to have access to a place where they could be themselves because they were having events in open spaces where there's no really protection if you are trans or if you are not out. So I was like, to me, that this was great because I was just like, it's great entertainment. People just arrive for my party and there's already a vibe, a mood. I didn't know what to expect, honestly. Then it happened in front of me, like people being 14, 15, 16, and just like being so free and need that space, like air. To be honest, I was jealous at the beginning because I was like, oh my God, I wish they had that when I was 14. And so I could be a part of it. And then I talked about it with Nikki, and Nikki said, this culture is not just for like the youth. It's like we have categories for people over 50 years old and stuff. It's like it's a community, so it's for everybody. And that's how I started to get involved at first as a DJ, and to give people access to what I had access to, which is clubs, because it felt safe for them to be in a place where I was mainly playing clubs that we would call white. That means that, like, they were sure that none of their family members would be in that club, and then it allowed them to explore their queerness and feeling safe.
It's kind of like you found each other as well, because I'm sure that was a light for you coming from hip hop and seeing like how that's your starting point with dance, but how it becomes an evolution for you to step into ballroom and voguing and whacking, and like kind of it's a new outlet for all that you maybe weren't finding within hip hop.
When I was introduced to hip hop, what I was doing is like I just enjoy the culture, the dance, the events, meeting people. It's only when I left that I realized that I wasn't sure if they were appreciating me because I wasn't vocal about being queer, even though looking back at pictures, it was clearly obvious because I feel like I was always visibly queer. That's also why I was very surprised when I came out to my mom and I was like, "But did you have no clue, really?" And then I showed her picture. I was like, "Come on." Yeah, yeah, yeah. And leaving this space, and I did it because I got injuries, and then I think it was just time for me to move on, focus on studies, and I was focusing on music and fashion, and it's when I truly like connected with the ballroom that I understood what was lacking for me in hip hop.
Mm. When you speak about like looking back and thinking, oh, it was clear or you were visibly queer, because I was the same, I was quite visibly queer. And I think that there's a difference between that and being accepted for that. There's a difference between like being brave enough to kind of be yourself, but also having that accepted from the other side and feeling comfortable about it, because it's kind of like this constant act of defiance or having to be brave, having to be strong in the face of it. And I think it's different. Like my mum used to say the same. She used to say like, "Oh, I had no idea," and I was thinking like, "How could you not know?" Like, I think my mum was probably in denial, though. I think she didn't want to know.
I think they don't want to know. But also coming out to my mom mostly because she's the only one where I had to be like, I want you to sit down. This is what's happening with me. I came out because I've always considered in my realm of the relationship that I was close to my mom, but always in a very respectful way. Like we kind of like shy and very reserved about how we feel. And so I was never talking about with my mom about things that were too personal.
Hmm.
But I realized that as I moved out I grew up in a city that's like 30 minutes from the center of Paris. And I was now living in the center of Paris. And my life was so articulated around my queerness that for me, it felt weird going back home and feel like I had to be someone else or not to be able to talk about the things that I was experimenting when I'm not around them. That I realized that even though it was 30 minutes, it had been 2 months since I went back. And my brother was also getting married. And I support financially a lot my family. And I thought it was time for me to do that because I was contributing a lot for this wedding. And I didn't want to have to take shit from the rest of my family because my brother is 11 months younger than me. And, African family will be, oh, you're the eldest. When are you getting married? And all of these questions. So it's actually funny how it came out because I calculated something. It's like my mother will always wish you happy birthday, even if she has a big issue with you. So I went 1 month before my birthday to tell her because I knew that she would have to talk to me a month after that, even if she was upset. And I arrived and I didn't have much time. I came for lunch and she was with three of my aunts. And I was like, I really have to do this now because after I have to go somewhere. I had to be places. So I took us on the side and I was like, okay, I have to tell you something. I want you to sit down. It's not a big deal. And because she asked me once, because she found some magazines and she was like, what are these magazines? And I'm like, oh, because I was very good at lying. So I was like, I'm doing this thing for school. We're studying fashion. So we're trying to compare the fashion that they expose the queer community and the fashion from straight magazine. That was my excuse. That was very far fetched, but apparently she bought it. So I asked her, you remember when you asked me if I was gay when you found those magazines? And she was like, no. Of course she did remember. And then I said, okay, you asked me, and what I answered was no, I lied. I'm gay, and I realized that I'm probably the first gay person you're meeting. So I will give you your space to actually take this in. And just so you know, I love you. I know that even if you don't understand this part of myself, I know that you're still going to have love for me. And I left. And the next day, she was at my house, and we spent the whole day together. She asked me so much questions. She talked to me about herself, her youth, how she navigated being a straight woman, being a black straight woman. It was actually a very nice bonding experience. But I do understood that the same way I had to educate myself about who I was, I will have to do this for my mother. So in the end, it's something that got us closer, and that was actually the point when I came out. But I was ready to not being able to talk to her ever, and I think that's what's sad about coming out is the fact that in order to do it, you have to be okay with the idea that this is probably the last time you're going to be speaking to these people.
Yeah, for me, I really I had that in my head that that might be the last time that we have contact when I tell my mom that I'm gay. But I kind of felt like the relationship I had with her was so ineffectual. It was like there was this love there, I guess, but it wasn't helpful because I couldn't lean on it. I'd had heartbreak and I couldn't lean on my family about it. I couldn't talk to my mom about it. When you're heartbroken, you kind of need your family. You need someone to hug you. You need to be able to talk to someone who's going to say, "Hey, it's okay," or whatever. And I kind of felt like there was a risk I might lose a relationship there, but I also thought, what am I losing really? Because what we have is not really practical. It's not, but it was very scary coming out. And actually, I did lose contact with my mum for quite a long time. I was asked to leave the house when I
I'm so sorry.
came out, but we did get it back together. But it was a long process, and it was a very emotional, rocky time. You know what happens with these interviews, Kitty, is that I start talking to you about what you were doing yesterday, and then I get really off track about actually the structure of the interviews. So I need to kind of dial it back a little bit and ask you
Mhm.
to please introduce yourself, tell me who you are,
This is a very hard question. I will
Yeah.
always struggle with presentation. My name is Kiddy Smile, and I go by Pierre. And I used to love Nutella so much, but I'm allergic now. I love clouds, and I guess I'm doing music. I
Uh-huh.
used to define to be like, hey, I'm doing house music, but at the moment, I'm working on a pop album in French. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to do house because I'm still doing this. It's still my DNA, but I want to experiment other things. So at the moment, I'm doing music and I'm a lot of things, but I think I don't want to define myself by what I do. I think it's more defining to define myself by what I like.
Mm.
So that's why I like Nutella and I like rain.
And Kitty, how do you identify?
I identify as a cisgender male. I use any pronouns. And I think the beauty of being a gay man is to be able to play with my feminine side. So I play a lot with like gender norms and I try to make fun of what society expect a man to be. And maybe sometimes you'll see me and I'll be very feminine, and sometimes you'll see me and I'll think I'll be very masculine. But all of this gender markers and like gender performances, to me, it's very bullshit. So I try to play with it. I don't want to have to choose, but I do identify as a cisgender man, and my sexual orientation is gay. And I also want to clarify what queer means to me, and I think what it means to a lot of people, because to me, I don't think all LGBT people are queer. I think that you have to make sure, first of all, to me, to be queer means to be visible in the public space, but also to have some kind of like political agenda into making sure your community has the decent human rights that everybody everybody else deserves. And also, you have to also care for other people that are not from your community to also have access to the same things you have.
I read this beautiful, or I listened to this beautiful interview with you where you said that as an adult, you wish to be the person that you would have seen as a kid. And having that in your MO, that you want to be a good representation that you didn't have, I think that's a really beautiful thing, I must say.
Because, I grew up in projects and we were only two black families. There was a lot of like families from the Middle East, from Maghreb, and even us being two families. Black Africa is so diverse. We were black, but we were so culturally different. Even like the food that we would eat, it would be different at each other's house. And I just directed this movie that we presented in art festival, and that is about representation and how if you don't see yourself in books, on TV, and things, you cannot project yourself into being these people. And to me, reading about my people, seeing my people, but never speaking my language because it was always people speaking English. It was always Americans or English people. It was a bit devastating because I didn't feel like I had the courage to dare to be and dare to be something else that what was expected from me. And I think somehow probably me being an artist was, I think, the only choice where I was kind of like allowed in my mind to pursue, because now we have these movies about black women working in NASA in secret and all of that. And this is going to create a path for young black women to know that it's possible because it has been done in the past.
Hmm.
But sometimes people don't have the courage to just be pioneers and to carve their own ways into a new path. And sometimes you don't do it and you realize that it has been done. Nobody is talking about it. And what was devastating in the movie that we did is that there was one girl that was sharing her experience, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't bother listening in school because all the movie I was seeing black women, they were all maids. So I thought that was the only job that I could do. So I did not listen in school because I was like, what is the point of me having good grades if I'm going to end up cleaning other people's houses?"
Hmm.
And that was so sad to me. And at first, I was starting to do music, and it was selfish, and it was about me laying down my feelings, and also, trying to get out of a certain way that was pre-dictated for me, meaning like you're either gonna end up in jail, or if you can play soccer, you might have a future. Schools in my neighborhood were terrible. I was lucky enough that I had it was easy for me to have good grades, so I was able to get out. But the representation things is so powerful because it's an image that you place in there. You know, people. For example, if you take the example of America, the first time that they had a successful representation of a black man as president was in the TV show 24.
Mm-hmm.
After the first season, there was a bump into the representation of black politicians. So there's a correlation between representation and actually impact in real life. So that was the theoretic part of it, but I really missed growing up to see somebody that was unapologetic about being queer,
Mm-hmm.
a proud gay man, and that wasn't turned into a joke.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the challenge here, because they will always trying to make the thing that makes you special, they will always try to like target that and trying to make it to turn it into a joke. And sometimes when I go into the media and I do all of these things, and yes, I want to also explore my artistry and look fabulous. And at the beginning, me wearing what I was wearing was easily turned into a joke. People were like, "What are you doing? What are you trying to look like a clown or whatever?" Nobody was seeing the fashion aspects of it. But thank God for Lady Gaga. She overdosed them with looks.
Can you tell me a little bit about where you grew up and how you grew up? You mentioned it a bit before.
Yeah, I grew up in a project in the city, in a town called Rambouillet. It's a very quiet town with only two projects, and mine was quite lovely. I kind of like growing up there. And I know that I said in the past in some interviews that it was horrible, but it could have been worse. And now looking back, I'm like, I met a lot of people that are still part of my life, and also very generous people, and that were willing to pick an interest in me and direct my journey. For example, my mom was cleaning houses, and there was this lady that my mom was cleaning her house, and I was doing my homework at her place, and she went and looked at what I was doing, and then she kind of helped me with my homeworks, and then she realized that the homework that I had were not as you say, suitable for somebody that was supposed to be in my class. And she started to giving me things that were more difficult, more advanced. And she told my mom that I could be skipping a class, and and I should definitely change schools. But schools are affected by the neighborhoods. You have these neighborhoods, and you go to this school. So she was kind enough to say that I was living at her address so I could have access to a better school. And that was the first thing that changed the course of my life, because I was like 11, and I got to go to this fancy school with fancy education. And that's how I got to learn about possibilities that they don't teach you in other schools. And it's just like, like to be able to go to art school and know that, like, oh, really, you could go to art school. To me, being an artist was just like, it's a hobby. You don't get paid for this unless you're Janet Jackson, you know. And, and yeah, it was nice. I grew up in a very complicated family with a dad who was very overwhelmed by the duties of being an African man and having to adapt to European father standards. He quitted his job of being a father real quick, and it was very pretty devastating to my construction as a man.
Mm-hmm.
I have been working on this in therapy, but I have an amazing mother. I have somebody who is resilient, who will fight for her kids, who is organized and will think of others before herself. And she's the prettiest mom as well. So
Mm.
I have a brother that I love to call very boring. I love him though, but I have to say his life is pretty boring. He is a boring person. And he knows it. It's fine. And I have an amazing little sister. She's a physical therapist. She is
Wow.
actually opening her own practice tomorrow, and I will be playing for the inauguration.
Amazing. And were your parents from the same part of Africa?
Yes, my parents were born and grew up in Cameroon, and they were school sweethearts. And but my grandmother didn't want my mother to marry this man, and he left
Mm-hmm.
for France. And my mother was staying single. They had all of these men coming and asking for my grandmother's permission to marry her daughter, and she kept saying no. And so my grandmother got tired and be like, "Okay, where is the guy that you liked?" And she said, "This is in France." And then she got a ticket and met him here in France.
But Cameroon, I mean, that still has some of the most hardcore anti-LGBTQ laws, I think.
Yeah, very.
I mean, what was your mum's? I mean, you mentioned it earlier because we got into it earlier, but did your mum come around to the queer stuff easily? And was your dad still in the picture then?
When I came out, my dad was gone, completely gone. Sometimes I think that he must know because it's in the papers, and also, yeah, I was very pretty vocal everywhere in the media about this.
Mm.
And I hope that somehow me being gay is making him sick a little bit. This is weird, but since I don't have any contact with him, and I'm pretty sure that he would not agree with it, I'm pretty sure that this is the reason why he never liked me, is that they could sense that I was queer. I hope it's bothering him. That's what I hope right now. This is my way of coping with not having a loving dad. Is I read him all the time. Every
Hmm.
chance that I get, I read my dad.
Kitty, we've been so deep in it, we didn't even mention one record. Can you please choose for me a record that you remember from your childhood growing up outside of Paris? Maybe something your parents played or something that takes you back to that time.
There's so many records. First of all, for a very long time, we didn't have TV because we didn't even have money to have TV. We would go to our neighbors who were from Portugal to watch TV and watch. But I would say Nina Simone, My Way,
Mm.
because I think this song was very popular in France by the original author, which is Claude François. But the way the song was written in French was very much, I never paid much attention to it because I would get the sense, which is the fact that he's crying over somebody who's going to leave.
Hmm.
But when they translated it in English for Frank Sinatra and then it was reinterpreted by Nina Simone in a way that was more relatable to me, I could feel the resilience. I could feel that this is an empowerment song by the speed of the music, the like a pronunciation, and that was something always that was very appalling to me in this song. And then later, when I was able to actually speak English and understand English, and I and I read the lyrics, and it's such a powerful song about everything that we talked about, which is carving your own way, carving a path for yourself, not caring about what other thinks about you, and believing in yourself. It's much more of an empowerment song than somebody crying about being left alone, you know?
Mm.
And the arrangements of this song are just amazing. It's my favorite Nina Simone song.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's a very different story. Frank Sinatra as a privileged white American man singing how he did it his way, and Nina Simone singing My Way. Like, it's a very different narrative.
Yeah, she was something else. Even if you think that if she was just heartbroken, it has like there's so many layers to what she's singing about.
She's really unmatched. You mentioned also Minnie Riperton, also, who I love.
Yeah, yeah, I love Minnie Riperton and Les Fleurs, and it's just because you know everybody has a past that's heavy, you know. Like sometimes that's what I love to do when I'm in the subway. I look at people and I'm like, oh, I wonder what these people have been through, you know. And that was a song that was playing a lot when I was at my parents' house, and you know, and nobody knew about it. When I was singing it to my friends, they were like, "Wow, we don't know this old people song," but it's just so. There's a way in soul music on how like they lay out their pains and they make it joyful.
Mm,
And Les Fleurs is really, to me, if you really don't pay attention, it's just a beautiful light song that makes you feel good, but it's really so much pain in it. And I
mm.
think the transformation of your pain into something that's beautiful is something that we all aspire to do. That's what I'm trying to do. And I'm still looking to have something being made that would touch people like the way I was touched with Les Fleurs.
When you selected that track and you sent it to me, I mean, I get the bluesy soul thing, but actually the thing that I really got from it, listening to it with a Kiddy Smile perspective, was that it's super queer fantasy. She says something like, "Will they wear me in her hair?" or something. Like, she's talking about, she's talking like from the perspective of the flowers almost. And I was like, God, that's such a beautiful, it's such a beautiful analogy of like a queer kid in a family. And she just has that exceptional voice. I could listen to her all day. Were there any queer people in your family?
No, there was none. None, none, none.
None that you have suspicions about either?
But the thing is just that when my parents kind of separated, we kind of like were alone. So we didn't have much contact with other family members. And also, I decided very early on that my family would be the people I would care for would just be my mother, my brother, and my sisters.
Mhm.
To be honest, like it's a lot of people, you know, and my mom still have contact with them, but I don't even bother remembering their names
Mm.
because we went through so much stuff where we were alone. I do not understand why when you came to our house and we still have to serve you a plate of food when you didn't even care to ask how we were doing when things were terrible. And this is probably the Aries in me, but I truly believe that if you were not with us when it was time to cry, you shouldn't be with us when it's time to laugh. And that's just me.
And when you say the Aries in you, is that the fiery, strong-headedness?
Yeah, also being stubborn, not listening, very difficult to forgive. We are very loyal. That's one thing about us.
They're very good in the studio, Aries, because they know what they want. And I think, like, working with people in the studio when you make music, like, the the thing that can take a lot of time is when someone kind of knows what they want, but they don't really. But if you definitely know what you don't want, then that's good. And Aries are very strong-minded in the studio, I find.
Yeah, they definitely know what they don't want.
Yeah.
I know what I like, and sometimes like if I don't hate it, it's probably that he has to grow on me. But
Mm.
if I say, no, we're not going to do that. It's like, that's what for me is super easy to select tracks. When I got promo, I'm like, no, that's not for me.
Hmm.
No, that's not for me. I know immediately.
I have that too, and I have it even like I'm like that track's great, but it's not my track.
Hmm.
There was no family members kind of paving the way for you in terms of queerness. So was it dance or music where you might have first become aware of a queer person or a queer artist or someone that was exciting for you or woke you up?
I've always known that was not a straight person. I remember when I was younger and I had this one guy friend, and it was just like I was probably like 5 years old, and we were just hanging out with each other and just the two of us. And I think we were having like it was like it was a kid's love story, and we knew that we could not tell anyone, and we knew that we couldn't be around other kids and do the things that we were doing, which was like playing, moms and dads or dads and dads,
Mm.
and also I grew up in an African household, as I said, and all the representation that we had about being queer were white people. And my parents keep telling, oh, this is some white nonsense. So
Mm.
until I was 17, I felt like I was an alien. I was an anomaly. I was something that should not have happened because I had never seen anyone being black and being gay but I saw it in some movies later in America. But yet again, and this is another conversation, it's like African American and African people, like we like there's a disconnect there, and like it's very hard for us also to project that the way they perceive themselves and the way they represent themselves, it's also us because we don't have the same history.
Mhm.
But I was also very intrigued. I was like, well, it's in America. And then they were like saying, my parents were saying like, oh, it's a disease. It's not supposed to happen and all of that. And I have absolutely no information. And I didn't know anyone that was queer. That was this obviously queer women in my project that looked very butch. But every time people were like bringing it up, she would get super mad. So I never even tried to be like, I don't know what's happening to me, or I know what's happening to me, and I just want to know more about it. But dancing took me to the center of Paris to take dance classes, and I was able to go to the gay neighborhood. And in this gay neighborhood, I found a library that had lots of books, and I've always loved how to read. And they also had DVDs. So I didn't have any money, so I stole a bunch of books and all the DVDs: the San Francisco Chronicles, The L Word, Noah's Ark, and this is how I found out about who I was. And then they had one time an agenda, like a book that would tell you all of the parties and all of like the cruising clubs and all of like the sex shops. And that's how I kind of like discovered things for myself.
You know, stealing food and stealing books is not stealing.
Honestly, I felt very bad because everything is being gentrified in Paris. And then this bookstore had to close because a brand wanted to open a store. And I found out, and it was too late. And in my mind, I was always like, I will write them a check. I will do something for them. And then I
Mm.
felt like, oh my God, they didn't have the money for all of this because of all of the books that I stole. But they opened up in another neighborhood, and every time I bring up this story, I'm always saying this, that I will go over there and like maybe offer like a DJ set or a private showcase or something that I really want to give back, because I wouldn't be the person I am today and the artist that I am today if I didn't bump into the store. And it's called Les mots à la bouche for those that are French. And if you want to support, they have an amazing collections of queer books. And yeah, that would be nice for me to give back to them.
It's so incredible to think of you on Drag Race and kids being able to see a black, queer, successful person who's not ashamed, who's expressive, creative, embracing. You've done an amazing trajectory there for someone that didn't have a role model or didn't have positive examples, that had to go and really figure it out for yourself. I mean, can you comprehend that like if you'd have had that as a kid, that would have been so inspiring. Like I'm sure you're inspiring kids.
I hope I am, even though I'm no longer part of the show.
Hmm.
Everybody that knows me and in a personal way knows that I've been on that show and I set out what I wanted to do. Kiona went on that show, and a black drag queen was crowned in France, and she deserved it. And it wasn't because I said anything or I did. The talent was speaking for itself. So when that happened, I was ready. I was okay to go for
Mm.
me. Uh, it was never a destination for me. And if I have to be honest, before one of the producers that owned the right reached out to me, I had never watched the show. I did not know about Drag Race.
Mm.
I knew what it was. I never sat there and watched it, you know? And I was like, oh, okay, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to be a part of this, then I'm going to dive into it, you know? And because to me, drag, I access the drag world through ballroom. And it's very different, you know. Drags is one of the ballroom genders that we have in ballroom, and
Hmm.
then you get to perform other art forms. Like you have to present as a drag queen, but you have to do other things. So to me, I never understood what was Drag Race about, and I don't have like this. I don't like these survival shows much,
Hmm.
so I never picked an interest into it. It's just when I was offered to be a part of the show that I was like, well, let me look what it is about, you know. And I really loved the show, you know, but it was never something that was for me. It wasn't a goal. I
Mm.
never said like, you know what, one day I will be on that show and I will be doing this. So I don't value fame. I think it's very destructive, and also I think it comes from the fact that I'm 6'7", and that every time I go somewhere, people see me, and I love to be discreet. I love, and people will be like, this Kiddy Smile is crazy, because I looked at the pictures online and the way it looks and all of that. But from a very early age, I realized that I can't hide. So I will use my looks in order to say stuff about myself. I will use this as nonverbal speech and express my sense of style. But it's not because I have this very flashy look that I want people to look at me, because I do it for myself. I don't do it for others.
I understand that. And I think also sometimes, I mean, you talk about your height, and as a queer person, I had the experience in my life that the more I tried to assimilate, the more I stuck out, because they don't want that either. Like, they don't, like, the norm core don't want you to try and, like, they kind of get offended when you try to assimilate as well. So it's like, fuck off. I'm just going to be myself ultimately.
Also find it super strange as DJs.
Mm.
Why are you looking at us? Now like blending tracks and selecting them is hard enough. When I focus, I have a resting bitch face. I don't know if I could say the B
Yeah,
word, but
yeah, please.
it,
You can say worse than that. It's welcome.
and like people were asking me to smile. Do you know how many times I had
Uh,
to filter the sound, leave the booth, go to the person and tell them, do you want me to smile and do this? Or do you want seamless transitions?
mhm.
Because I can't do both.
And nor should you have to. I mean, it is something that's become extremely accelerated, especially since COVID, because everything went online
Hmm.
and people were even more so encouraged to watch a DJ rather than listen to a DJ. Yeah.
Turn around. I want to see your back. I want to see you talking to other people. I want to see you talk to the person that next to you.
Yeah, or listen to the music and see where it takes you. But I think it will change again. I mean, there's a lot of very hyper performativeness within DJ culture now. And for me, I think, okay, it's fine. Like it's welcome. There's room for all of it. If that's part of where it's going, let it be. But ultimately, if you want to know the measure of a DJ, listen to their set in a dark room with some headphones on where you can't see them and tell me what kind of DJ they are.
Hmm.
It's a feeling and it's with your ears, not with your eyes.
I do love this. And, like, I didn't know about that. I was introduced into the era of, I mean, I met DJs with Ed Bangers and DJ Medi. So that
Mhm.
was Injustice and all. This was the era where, like, DJs were rock stars,
Oh, yeah.
and like people would like scream at them and cry to be backstage. And I was around these people. So to me, that I was like, oh, that's a DJ. Before that, a DJ was just somebody playing music for dancers.
Mm.
The star was the dancers, but not the DJs. So I was just like, oh, okay, that's what they do. Okay. But honestly, when I went into Ballroom and I went to New York for the first time and I went to Vogue Nights, which was a party where they like everybody would come and just like dance and let their feelings out, and like the DJ was not even in the room. It was in another room next to the toilet, and he had a little window, like a mailbox, to see what was happening.
Hmm.
And I went there, and Mike Q was playing. Mike Q, another like a
Yeah.
icon when it comes to ballroom beats, somebody who defined the sound of what ballroom music is today. And he felt so free. And if you know Mike Q, he's an introvert. So I think it allowed him like to do his own stuff. To like, me, I always have candy when I play and I eat, and when I play in Ibiza and all of those places, and I get a candy or a lollipop, and like people find this funny, but for some other people, they could find this very terrifying that people are going to react to this. But it's not about me. It's about what I play. And it's actually about you. You were supposed to do the show. I miss the days when the audience felt that it was about them. And they would dress up and they would like come on and feel
Oh,
like the
yeah.
divas and like to be like, oh, good. The DJ played a good soundtrack for me to do my show. And I wish people were more like this nowadays.
I think there are spaces where that is still
Hmm.
potentially, it's still there, and I hope it gets bigger, but it's usually the places without phones.
Yeah.
We've jumped to records, so I want to ask you for your queer awakening, it could be a record that reminds you of coming out or an artist that you early associated with queerness, or it could be a record that you associate with coming out yourself.
So the first time I related to house music was when I saw the movie Priscilla, but I don't know the English name, but it's about these drag queens that do this road movie in Australia. And I think one of them is has a biological daughter and is going to her. I know my parents didn't want me to watch this, but I stumbled into it and I heard Cissy Peniston finally. And this song has been with me forever, whether it was karaoke or whether it was like parties, they would keep playing the song that sounded very, very to me like queer celebration. And for a very long time, it was part of my USBs, the Morales Journey Mix,
Hmm.
because his take on this song is absolutely insane. When I was lucky enough to play my dream club that I wanted to play on Pride in Berkine in the garden,
Uh-huh.
I wanted to close with this song. It's a very vibey song, but I was happy I did it. I think people liked it. But yeah, I really love Sissy Peniston finally. Yeah, this was very defining as a producer as well.
And Morales just, yeah, and also the way he handles like an epic vocal track is like no one else.
Every time I play, there's a David Morales remix was produced. I absolutely love his work. So
I mean, that's the remix for Finally. That is the remix. But also, the Mariah Carey track that he remixed as well is really incredible.
do you know the story about this?
No, tell me.
Do you know that he called her, like the label asked him to remix it because it was the biggest remixer at the time and everybody wanted David more or less remix. And then he said to the record label, "Can you give me a phone number because I need to ask her something." And they did. And then he told her, like, "Mariah, I can't work with those vocals. You have to record them all over again." And then she went and did it.
Oh, wow.
And then he did his magic. And then she released, I think it was a 7-track album of only the remixes. And then she did the full tour with the regular album. And then after that, she went on the road and did all of the clubs in another tour with only these remixes. And she did it for 6 years.
Wow.
For six
Fuck.
years, she was touring with this,
That's wild.
thanks to him.
Thanks to Morales.
All of the versions that he plays, the vocals are absolutely not the same. Even my all and always be my baby,
Hmm.
amazing.
We have to talk about a few other real divas that you might know. How was it being on stage with Madonna?
Being on stage with Madonna was insane, and also for me a full circle moment because, as I told you, I was a dancer and I was scouted in the street to audition for her when I was 13, and I couldn't go to audition because I broke my ankle and I was in the hospital for a year. So I couldn't absolutely dance for her. And what was horrible is that as I was in the hospital, I found out the music video they were casting me because I could see my other friends that were with me because we were dancing in the street. We were dancing by the Trocadero, which is in front of the Eiffel Tower. And we practiced there because the floor is super nice. And we also do street shows where we could get some money to, at the end of the day, buy a kebab or something.
Mm.
And this guy came up to us and said, like, "Oh, I'm working for this big artist that wants to do." And we were like, "Yeah, yeah, no problem, blah, blah, blah." And then I saw all of my friends in the Hung Up music video. So
Mm.
after that, it was only me trying to pursue and be like, okay, I missed this opportunity, but I need to have it again.
Hmm.
I went to a casting in New York several times after that when she worked on the album with Timbaland. And I made it through the final rounds, but they didn't take me. And I was a bit devastated. But this was the first spark that I had about why am I offering my talent to other people and they can dispose of it when I also have something to say.
Mm.
This was at the time where I was doing a lot of things with Ed Banger about dancing. They also had asked me at the time to dance for Effie, to go on tour with her. And I was also doing background vocals for her and working with Effie. She was somebody who just happened to have a career, but never intended to be in the industry.
Hmm.
And she hated it. She didn't want to be there. She was crying before shows. She wanted to be with her daughter. And I was like, oh my God. I remember crying over going to volleyball practices because they were happening behind the music school. And we didn't have enough money for me to take music courses. And I was like, you're living the dream, but you don't even want to be there. So all of these thoughts with me not being able to dance for this artist that was so important to me because she was the first artist that I saw having a political statement
Mm.
when I was at a very young age and realized that the person who did this music video is in big trouble. I know that for a fact. As I was watching it at my Portuguese family, neighbors, and they didn't understand why I was scared for the person on TV because it was like a prayer and she had Black Jesus. And I knew that this would not slide, but for them, it wasn't a problem. And this was my earliest memory of a pop music artist using her audience to send a political message. That's why I wanted to dance for this person. That's why I pursued this up to New York. But then when I wasn't taken, I was just like, maybe I need to think. I need to think that maybe it's time for me to pursue music. Maybe it's time for me to tell my own story and not just being an accessory in other people's story. And I started doing music. I started working with the TR-808 and taking Ableton courses and bothering my producers' friends and asking them like, "Do you want to do vocals? I could do vocals. I could do this. I could do this." And my best friend auditioned for her for another tour and was taken. And I went to see him at rehearsals and I got to meet her at that time. And she's like, "Oh, you look familiar." And I'm like, "Yeah, you auditioning when I was 13. And then I went back when I was 20 and you didn't take me." And she was like, "What are you doing now?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing music. Maybe one day we'll be on stage together and we'll be both holding a mic."
I'm sure she loved that.
She loved the energy. She said, like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I love this energy." And she was at that time dating one of our friends, Brahim. And then I moved on. I was just like, this Madonna thing is not going to happen. Let's fast forward to I got an invitation in Paris. My career is doing well. And I got an invitation to play for the 350th anniversary of the opera.
Hmm.
This is revolting, I'm telling you right now. So they're like, "You could do whatever you want." And I'm like, that would be so nice if me and Madonna would sing Vogue on the opera stage. And we would call all of the iconic Voguers like Leomi, the House of Milan, the Ninjas, and all of that, and do something like that great. So we reached out to her and they said like they would love to do it, but they have an issue with the opera. The issue with the opera is that back in the 90s, I think she wanted to do a concert there. And the opera was very insulting to her, saying that they would love to accommodate her, but the opera only welcomes performers that perform music.
Oh, fuck them.
So my team told that to the people at the opera. They was like, "Listen, that was over 30 years ago. That's not us. But we will apologize, no problem. So she got an apology letter and then still declined. So this did not happen.
Okay.
So I performed by myself on stage for this anniversary. And then what happened is that she started following me on Instagram. And one of my best friend, Nabil, shout out to Nabil for pushing me into doing this, was like, "Have you ever written to her on Instagram, like DM'd her?" And I was like, "She must be getting so much of them." I was like, "Yeah, but she's following you." And first of all, the real thing is just like, I did not notice that she was following me. He told me, "Girl, that's fierce. Madonna is following you and you're not following back." But then I was scared because I was just like, if I follow her back now, she's going to get mad that I didn't follow back immediately. How am I going to do this? So I waited for her to announce something so she would get so many notifications that she would not see. And that's how I followed her. And then he was like, "Did you write to her?" And I was like, "I'm not going to bother her." And then he was like, "You need to do it because, she's getting old. She's probably going to retire. If you want to do something with her, anything, you just write her." So I write to her and I write everything that I've told you about my relationship with her that she didn't know about. And then she wrote back. She liked the message. It was a two big blocks. And then she said, "Well, you don't know what the future holds." So I turned to my friend and was like, "See, you sent me over there. I poured my heart out to this woman, and she's politely saying no. And my friend is like, "You have no idea who this woman is. If she's not interested, she will not reply to you. She will not say anything. She's telling you, wait, hold on a minute. I'll think about what we can do together."
Hmm.
And later on, she invited me to open a concert for her. She invited me to go and see the show in Barcelona and then open it in Paris. And then the next day, I couldn't meet her. And the next day, she invited me to come meet her in her room as she was getting ready, and she was like, "I think you should come up on stage with me and do the ballroom section."
Uh-huh.
And I thought that it wouldn't be me because in that room were like Lenny Kravitz, Jean-Paul Gaultier, Amanda. There was so many
People.
iconic people in the room that it would. Why would it be me? You know? And I did it, and she actually listens to the music that's being played in the openings for her because she has a monitor in her room, and
Hmm.
she was just very lovely. She gave me some advices in the industry, and she told me that she did not remember our encounter, but Lola and Rocco, her kids,
Hmm.
played my music for her and told her that I was a cool kid, and that's how she followed me on Instagram.
That's so nice.
And that was a full circle moment for me, from being 13 and scouted in the street for her
Mm.
to 20 years later.
It's quite cosmic.
To me, because it always felt like I missed an opportunity and I never got it back. And this felt to me like it's closed.
Do you remember from those early raving clubbing days, Kitty, a track where you might have started to think, oh, maybe I'm going to be a DJ? I guess for you, it was in the ballroom scene, maybe the ballroom culture. And maybe it was the track that was common then.
So yeah, there's one track that is very defining of me stepping into house music and realizing, oh, that's what I want to do. So there's this band, Storm Queen,
Hmm.
that has this track called It Goes On. It's incredible the way it's built up, and the vocals is just amazing. Like it just takes me every time as a dancer, and the depth of it is just like there's these records where like, oh, I wish that this record was mine. I wish I had the idea. I wish I had the talent. I wish, because you could appreciate records and be like, oh, I love this record, but like you're like, I'm jealous of the brilliance of this record.
So that's a track that you might have been playing in one of your early sets, I guess.
I still play it.
You still play it. It's funny because when I heard that track, I was like, that's got like a Kiddy Smile sound to it. Like that to me, that really sounds like.
My sound is defined by my whole sound is defined by this track. I'm always trying to match and to get to the brilliance of this. Would I play my song right after I played this?
Mm,
And if it's not the case, I go back to the studio and work.
uh-huh.
And the dub version is like, and so you listen to the track. So this is the original mix, and you're like, the amount of work. And then you go to the dub version, you're like, so you find a way to make it better than what it was? How rude. How rude. It's rude.
I love that.
And also I was starting when I found out about this. But if I was producing music for 20 years and I stumbled into this, I would be mad. Because me, I was just trying to reach out. I was trying to like match. I was trying to get that was the destination for me.
I can hear that though. I wanted to jump actually to an early music love. So a seminal track that you remember from your early rave days that you still love.
It's not really a track from my early rave days.
Hmm.
So I told you I've been stealing DVDs and I've been stealing
Books.
books, but I forgot about that show. It's a show that's a bit controversial. It's a show that's about two gay men. One that's very attractive and who's having a lot of fun with other men, and another one who's like looking for love but a little shyer.
Hmm.
And they had the UK version, but they also had an American version,
Ah, it's Queer as Folk.
Queer as Folk. And then so he's meeting this young guy, and then basically this young guy is going to turn into the next version of him.
Yes.
And so at the end of the first season, when the young guy realized that he got the power and now he changed the power dynamics with Stuart, there is this song in the back that's playing. as he's coming to realization of the baddest bitch he has become, you know?
Uh-huh.
And I was obsessed with that. And I could never know what it was. I was like, what is this song? What is this song? What is this song? What is this song? And then I was starting to ask on forums back then for people that used the internet. And I was like asking in the forums, and then somebody directed me to that record. And I kept playing it over and over and over again. And I love what Charlotte de Ritter did with it. And it's a bit hard for my sets, but sometimes I try to play it and slowing it
Yeah.
down. But yeah, all that second down from OT Quartet is incredible.
It's a real anthem, you know, with the keys in it. It's really, I remember, I mean, I have it on 12 inch, but it's one of the producers on it is Rollo, and Rollo is the brother of Dido. I don't know if you remember Dido, the
Yeah, of
singer.
course. Yeah,
Yeah, so his or her brother is one of the producers on there, and he did a few great tracks. There's also like Rollo Goes Camping. I'm going to send you some things that are over on that side of that sound, which you might like.
please, please.
Good choice. Your choices are great, by the way.
Thank you.
You mentioned fame earlier and kind of experiencing tastes of fame. And I wanted to use that as a way to get into our chat about the music that you might listen to for wellness or sanity or, you know, your sanity practice, if you like.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say it's like I am not that famous. It's just some aspects of like when you're famous in certain areas, it's like, and so also, I think it's the TV thing that make people behave this way. It's just like you appear in people's home, and sometimes they have full conversation with you, and you're not even there because they're talking to their TV and stuff. So when they see you in real life, they talk to you like they know you. They talk to you like you're part of their family because you're in their homes, you know. And because I have had a little bit of fame in the queer community, but people were never addressing me the way they addressed me after I appeared on Drag Race. The
Mm,
way people were talking to me on Drag Race, they were talking to me like I owe them money. And I'm somebody who loves to be left alone.
hmm.
And if I go and approach someone and I would just be like, sorry, can I talk to you? Am I bothering you? Are you doing something at the moment? Because people would just like come to you and talk to you like you belong to them, interrupt you in what you're doing.
Mm.
And sometimes you're having like the most difficult conversation with people. And like it always happens at the worst time. And sometimes you just don't want to get your picture taken. You don't feel good. You don't
Yeah.
feel pretty. You feel bloated. You have pimples. And I was glad that when Chappelle Roan talked about like, yeah, I'm gonna say that it's not because yeah I'm exposing myself to this that I have to suffer from fame.
Hmm.
And people were like, "Oh, congratulations, welcome into stardom and all of that. You cannot complain." But yeah, why she cannot complain? She doesn't want this part of this, and she doesn't have to take it. And I agree with that. But the music that I listen to completely different music when I want to relax, when I want to cut out from the noise and all of that. I listen. I don't even know if this genre of music has a name, but one of my favorite artists that I love is Novo Amor. I also listen a lot of Cigarette After Sex.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I think it comes from me when I was very sad and young. I used to have this playlist called "Summertime Sadness" that my friend deleted from my MacBook because I was just contemplating myself into being heartbroken and in despair and disarray and just like in it, how you feel
Mm.
sad and you stay in it, and it was mostly songs from the Grey's Anatomy's soundtrack.
Hmm.
A lot of Ingrid Michael songs and stuff like that, Sarah McLachlan and all of these songs, those like mellow songs. But now I've moved on to more songs that like that are suitable for also traveling in trains and planes and just like accompany a mood that could be a
Mm.
little sad, but very beautifully arranged.
It took me a long time because I was really sad growing up and quite lonely. I navigated to a lot of sad, lonely music, and it gave me a lot of comfort. But it took me a long time to realize how music can change my mood as well. So, although sometimes I navigate to sad music and it's fine to go there, but I also remember to kind of put something that shakes me out of it. And I often put music on now when I wake up, and it really does change my mood. It's really the power of music is it's really something. You know, when you were talking about people coming up and kind of feeling like they know you or that you owe them something, I think the thing that people don't realize is that they treat famous people in a way that you wouldn't treat someone else and then complain when you don't get the response. So they'll be like, you know, if you don't want your picture taken, they're like, oh, he's rude. But they don't think about their rudeness in how they approached it.
Yeah, it's just like, and also the thing with taking pictures without being asked is very triggering to me as a black person because I always like, oh, people touching you without your consent, because people, it's not the same experience for white people and for black people.
Hmm.
There is a history of white people having access to black bodies in a way that like they would treat them like pets. And I could see growing up how me and my brother were treated compared to other white kids. The people were very easily trying to like arrange things on us and just being physical on us when they wouldn't be with other people. You know,
Hmm.
such a little thing as like assuming that I cannot tie my laces, things like that. But maybe I'm digressing. But the thing is just like I kept asking people. I was like, "Do you know who?" The only things that we take pictures and we don't ask for their consent is animals.
Mm.
You cannot just go to someone and just take a picture like this. It's rude. Ask me.
Yeah.
Some people think I sounds like a cunt because I'm not willing to be nice, but I will match your energy. Just don't be rude.
And sometimes being nice, like if you want to talk about nice, sometimes being nice is having boundaries and reminding people you're being a dick. You know, like I don't think nice is about people pleasing or being agreeable. I think actually kindness sometimes is having boundaries with people.
Because I was just like, I'm gonna be nice to people, like, because I really don't want to fall into this narrative of the angry black man and all of that. But the thing is that I could be nice for 10 years and have one burst of anger,
There you
and they'll
go.
say, "See, he's always been me. He's always
Yeah.
been this person." So I'm just gonna do what I want when I want,
Yeah.
and then what you think about me is not going to change.
How is traveling and touring for you? Do you find it, does it suit you well?
No, it doesn't.
Mm.
Traveling is a bit complicated because, like I said, I'm 6'7", and I don't think I am in a place where people that wants to see me and the type of audience I'm catering to can afford to book business tickets for me. So it's comfortable for me to travel. I
Mm.
didn't mind when I was younger, but now it's a bit hard on my body.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I absolutely love what I do. So I'm willing to suffer a little bit because people don't actually understand because they're like, "Oh, you're over exaggerating. It is not suffering." But honestly, there's some planes that I can't even sit.
Hmm.
I really can't sit in. It's really becoming a problem because seats in planes are really, really tiny and
There's also this attitude sometimes that, you know, because your job's in someone's social life, that you're taking it too seriously if you ask for things that make your job easier. And, you know, if you're traveling around Europe, that's one thing. But if you're taking like long flights and getting off a flight and it's the third flight and you're going straight to a gig, that's a lot.
you know,
It's a lot. Okay. Like there's always tougher jobs and it's a great privilege to do our job. But
it's very tiring. But you ask me, so I'm telling you. But you will never hear me complain about this and be like, "Oh, I'm so tired. I just did this. I just did that." My friend thinks I'm crazy.
Mm.
I was in New York. I arrived, and then I went to a dance competition to participate. And then my friend was like, "I'm playing there." I was like, "I'll come to support." And she's like, "You just came back from New York. Just rest." And I'm like, "I do want to rest, but life is also short, you know.
Mm.
So if it's not too much for me, then I'll do it."
Is there a current track that you're playing that you love that you can recommend for the listener?
I will recommend a track. Sorry, I will recommend Us and Jack Shit. It's everything I love to play because this type of tracks. I love tracks that have vocals. This one doesn't, but the way it's built up, it's a journey, and I love this type of track that plays with rhythm patterns because I still dance, and I'm still also very surprised how the song turns out and builds up and changes and then slow down and then goes back up, and then there is another song that I used to play so much from Jimmy Edgar
Mm.
that was kind of built like this. I can't remember the name. I'm terrible at names.
Me
I
too,
am.
but he made so much great music. I haven't heard his name in a while. You're really tripping me out.
I was trying to get in the studio with him for so long, with them for so long. So,
Listen, before you go, you have to tell me about George Michael.
oh, oh my God. So yeah, that was when I was a dancer. One thing that I told you that the reason why I did not make it at the end for Madonna is because my look was too original, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And that's also the thing that made me realize that maybe my original look and my views on things and my love for music should be something that I do for myself, by myself. But when I was a dancer, a lot of jobs that I got were because I was original,
Hmm.
because I was a very fat boy that could dance. And some people were very attracted to this, and others were not attracted to this. And I had started to learn a new dance. And I was going with all of these professional dancers to the studio, and then there was a casting happening, and my friend wanted to do it. But me, I felt like I just started learning this dance. I'm not gonna go and do a casting. So I went with him. And as we were waiting in line for him to register, and then the casting director comes and just like stops right where we are, and she's like, uh, can I have your number? And you go to the front of the line, you tell them that I send you over there. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 I'm not doing the casting. My friend is. And then she said, yeah, yeah, your friend can do the castings, but listen to me. If the casting director is telling you to do the casting, maybe you should do it. So I did. I danced. I remember that I was dancing on Me and You by Cassie because that was the hot track at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that it was for George Michael and it was for the song An Easier Affair. And I was very intimidated because I knew that it was Jake. I remember this like it was yesterday. All the names. It was Jake Nava. Jake Nava had directed one of Beyonce's "Crazy in Love" music video at the
Wow.
time, and it was big in the dance community. And then they did something that was so fierce because the next day they needed to decide, but the next day they had to put the dancers in the Eurostar to go to London to shoot the video. And so they had kept 5 or 6 people from France, but they all asked us to go to Gare du Nord and to wait there. And then some people were getting called. And then one person phone rang and she was told that she's not giving. She's not
Uh,
she's
yeah.
not gonna go into the and she had to go. And then I had a girl that I knew, a phone rang and it was George Michael
Fuck.
on the phone telling her, I appreciate your talent. You're beautiful. We're gonna do a great music video. And then they directed her to the train ticket office,
Yeah.
and she got her ticket. And then I was the last one waiting there. And then it was him on the phone telling me,
Uh-huh.
but I had no idea. I knew that it was George Michael when my friend got picked, but I thought it was also him telling people no. So when I heard his voice, I wasn't sure that it would be to say yes to me. And then he said like, "You're a beautiful dancer," and then he make it look like I was not gonna go and do the music video. And then he said, "You're going with us to London, and we're very happy to have you." And then it was only 3 French people in this music video. And I went there. They dressed me in Vivienne Westwood from head to toe.
Nice.
And I did my little part
Uh-huh.
for an easier fare. It was super sweet. And then the next day, he took us to Burberry. And we could pick one items,
Wow.
all of the dancers. And I picked a coat. I picked a trench coat that I still have.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was very sweet, very caring, not taking himself seriously. That was insane that they flew one of the Beyonce's dancers. She went on set for 2 hours and did a thing with a chair and then flew back.
Wow.
And that was my first job as a professional dancer.
That's
First job.
insane.
Yeah.
And the newest single, the last one, is Make Love?
Yeah, so Make Love is my attempt into blending French and the language of French and house music, because I'm gonna venture into a whole new pop music in French era that's gonna be very focused on French people. So maybe if you don't live in France, you will not hear about it. But I also have a record coming up with Glitterbox in the end of May. It's called Spank.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And people can also check out your whole festival set, which is super, on YouTube. It's really great.
Thank you. Yeah, check it out. It has been done with love and with my Ballroom family. The dancers are from my house, and
Uh-huh.
the director is also somebody from my house. And they've been recording all of my sets from whole from the beginning. I think it's my third time playing a whole.
Uh-huh.
And this year, I'm also playing, but they've been doing such a good job. The people from my house that now the festival is booking them, so it's beautiful.
Fierce. So she's opening doors. She's opening the doors.
They also have the talent. I'm just directing the look. I'm like, look over here. They're super talented.
Kiddy, my intention with the podcast is, I mean, it's obviously lovely to chat and everything, but I really kind of hope that when we tell our individual stories, it's inspiring for other people. And there's so many markers of difference out there. There's a lot of focus on individuality and identity. But I think when we tell our individual stories, we find our common ground with each other. And I think your story is really inspiring for a lot of people. And I hope a lot of people get to listen to it, not only on this podcast, but on whatever other platforms your art uses, because I think your story is incredible and it's such a pleasure to have this time with you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. I wish we had more time. I didn't even talk about Best Ditto and
Oh, I
how
know we have to talk about Beth. We had a great chat, Beth and I, so I'm sure everyone would
she
love to hear that. She's a character. I love her.
such a sweetheart always. When we talk about people opening doors
Oh
and
yeah.
keeping them open for
Mm.
others, that's what she did. We
She's
didn't
the
even
real
talk about
deal.
Maria and how Miriam basically made my record happen. But yeah,
Oh god, there's a lot. We have to do a
there's so
second
much.
episode. We have to do a second one.
That'd be
We
lovely.
do it. I look forward to seeing you and giving you a big hug and having a dance with you soon.
Same.
You've been listening to Queerly Beloved with me, Cormac. Since you've listened right to the end, I wanted to give you a heads up that for each series of Queerly Beloved, I want to start highlighting the work of a queer charity or organisation worth supporting. For Season 2, I've chosen notaphase.org, a charity committed to supporting and uplifting the lives of trans adults through community and joy. You can find a link to Not a Phase at the link in the episode description, as well as playlists for all the music mentioned in today's episode and every episode. While you're there, please do hit subscribe so you don't miss out on my conversations with more talented people. A big thanks to Michael Lane, my producer, to my manager, Melissa Taylor at Tailored Communication, and of course to Amazon Music for their support, and to you, the listener. Until next time, take care of yourself. All the best. Bye.